All right, so have you ever heard of a town that was, well, like a giant company store? I mean, literally the whole town.
Like a company town, yeah, those definitely existed, especially back in the day when industries like mining and logging were booming.
Right, exactly like that. Today, we're diving deep into one of these fascinating company towns, Wheelwright, Kentucky, a place built by, owned by, and operated by a coal company. It's like stepping back in time to the Wild West, except instead of saloons and sheriffs, we've got coal mines and company presidents calling the shots.
It sounds like a pretty intriguing story, so where do we even begin with a place like this?
Well, first, let's set the scene. 1916, eastern Kentucky, the heart of coal country. Think rolling hills and, that kind of classic Appalachian landscape. And right smack dab in the middle of it all, this little town pops up practically overnight, all thanks to the Elkhorn Coal Company.
Okay, so the coal company is basically the town founder then. Did they, like, buy up a bunch of land or something?
Yeah, pretty much. The land originally belonged to the Hull family, but they sold it to the Elkhorn Coal Company, which was, well, it's kind of like the first domino falling in the creation of Wheelwright. And get this, they named the town after their own company president, Jer Wheelwright.
Wow, talk about leaving your mark, huh? Naming a whole town after yourself. That must have been a pretty common thing back then, though, right? With these company towns, I mean.
Oh, yeah, it was all about establishing that company identity, making sure everyone knew who was in charge. And just a year later, in 1917, Wheelwright officially became a city.
So it wasn't just a mining operation. They actually built an entire city around it. I mean, what did that even look like?
I know, right? It was like they created their own little world. We're talking houses, stores, churches, schools, even a hospital, all built and managed by the Elkhorn Coal Company. If you lived in Wheelwright, chances are your life revolved around the company in one way or another.
That's wild. It's like a company branded existence. I can see how it could build a strong sense of community, but also maybe feel a bit stifling, you know?
Exactly. It's a fascinating paradox, right? Like, on one hand, you have this built-in support system, everyone working towards a common goal. But then on the other hand, you've got this one entity with a ton of power over people's lives. It really makes you think about the trade-offs, the potential benefits and drawbacks of this kind of arrangement.
Yeah. I'm curious, did this kind of company town model last? I mean, Wheelwright couldn't have stayed under the control of the Elkhorn Coal Company forever, right?
Well, you're right about that. Wheelwright did change hands a couple of times, first going to the Inland Steel Company in 1930 and then to the Island Creek Coal Company in 1966. But the real turning point, the one that really shook things up, happened in the 1970s. The mine shut down.
Oh, wow. I bet that was a huge deal for the town. What happened then?
Yeah, it was a major shift for Wheelwright. With the mine gone, the whole foundation of the town was basically pulled out from under it. It ended up being purchased by the Kentucky Housing Corporation, marking a pretty significant transition from company ownership to state control.
So what we're seeing here is the kind of life cycle of a company town, right? It's born from industry, thrives for a while, and then has to adapt when that industry changes.
Exactly. And speaking of capturing moments in time, there's this incredible photograph taken in 1946 by Russell Lee, a photographer known for documenting life in places just like Wheelwright. This photo, which is now part of the National Archives, shows a coal loader named Hari Fain working for the Inland Steel Company.
I can only imagine the stories those photos could tell. It really puts a human face on this whole company town phenomenon, reminding us that behind the economics and industry, there were real people, families, and communities trying to build a life.
Absolutely. It's a glimpse into a world that's both familiar and completely foreign to us now. And it raises so many questions about, well, about the impact these companies had, the good, the bad, and everything in between. It makes you wonder what it must have been like for someone like Hari Fain to have his livelihood, his home, his entire world tied to a single company.
It definitely makes you think, doesn't it? And it's a reminder that history isn't just about dates and events, but about the lives of everyday people, the choices they made, and the circumstances they faced.
Well said. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Wheelwright, Kentucky, we encourage you to dig a little deeper into the history of company towns. Explore the work of photographers like Russell Lee who captured those moments, and maybe even think about how those themes, those ideas, still resonate with us today. After all, we're still grappling with questions about economic change, community identity, and the balance of power between individuals and large institutions.
It's a history that's still relevant, even if the company town model isn't as prevalent anymore. It definitely gives us a lot to think about.
That's right, and who knows, maybe you'll even uncover some surprising connections to your own community or family history.
That would be pretty cool. Well, thanks for taking us on this deep dive. It's been a fascinating journey.
Absolutely, and to all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us, and until next time, keep exploring.
Happy digging.